Hello, sister.
Hello, brother.
How are we?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well. I just got back from the gym.
Nice.
That's why I was a couple minutes behind.
That's all right.
Is my nephew asleep?
He is, yes.
Good
I
job.
got him. I
Good
got him
job.
down.
Good job, mother.
Thank
Excellent
you.
work. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good. Now be all professional and don't be yourself, please. Uh,
Shut
uh,
up.
Well, this is the first time I think the only other person I've had on the podcast is Dad, which is might be a little surprising.
I'm a little offended that he made it before I did, really. Wow.
Yeah, well,
Not your best choice. Not your
you had to
best
earn your
choice.
stripes, kid. You had to earn your stripes.
Well,
Yeah,
excuse
yeah,
me.
that was a funny podcast actually. But why don't you tell people who you are? Just do it.
Okay. My name is Licia. I am Ryan's sister, older sister,
Hmm.
but not less attractive. Um,
Wait, wait. You say not, are you saying you're more attractive?
no, no, I'm just saying older doesn't mean,
Oh,
you know,
all right, go ahead. Just
this.
because I'm older doesn't
Uh,
mean I'm old. All
exactly.
right, go
That's
on.
exactly. I am a mom, as Ryan was saying, and I am a chef and baker and also an author. So,
Mm. Yeah, you are pretty
yes.
badass, actually. That's pretty pretty cool things to put after your name there.
Thank you.
Oh no. I'm still
Uh-oh.
here, Alicia. I'm still here. Don't worry. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hold on. I'm here. Can you
Technical
see me here?
difficulties. I can't see you yet. No,
But you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Sometimes that's the most important, you know? Sometimes.
This
Some.
is this the Love is Blind reenactment? Are we
Well,
in the
I
pods?
guess let's just restart the whole thing. No, I'm kidding. So you are a, mother, you're a sister, you're a chef, you're an author. I guess let's dive into the chef part first. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What, I guess, how did that start? Even though I might know some of it, but let's tell the people.
Yeah. So, I grew up, our family, I guess, really was big into food. We love to eat, and gather, and especially at holidays, we love to cook and bake. And I feel like I just grew up seeing, I mean, our mom cooked. She wasn't the most avid cook or lover of it, I guess, but she always baked.
Hmm.
And my grandpa was a really good cook and baker. And I don't know, I guess somewhere along the way I guess my earliest memory was I asked for an easy bake oven. I might have been like 8 or something
Hmm.
for Christmas. I got an easy bake oven and I remember I was like making my little cakes like right
Hmm.
before everyone came for Christmas and like, hey, look what I made. And I guess that would be like my earliest memory of really loving cooking and baking,
Yeah.
uh, besides doing like holidays with our family. And it started me on this path of loving it and doing it, but never really thinking that was something I could do it for a living.
Mm.
Um,
Why
and
not?
I guess in my head, it just didn't, I don't know, an option. I don't know. I was just, I think maybe it was a combo of I'm not good enough to be a chef
Mm.
and a combo of our parents really didn't think it was a good profession.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe it was a mix of all of that. Also probably just a lack of education of actually thinking like
Yeah.
this was a career path,
True.
never being exposed to that or somebody in the food industry.
Yeah.
Um, so it wasn't really until I guess I started, it was in high school. We had a really amazing cooking program at our high school. Shout out
Hmm.
to Peggy and Diaz.
Peggy.
Uh, But I remember taking that class and I absorbed everything. And I remember getting
Yeah.
like angry, like maybe not out loud, but definitely inside at my partners who were cooking with me because I'm like, they're not doing it right. Like, why are they messing this up?
Yeah.
I took it so serious.
Right.
And I remember getting an A+ in that class,
Wow.
an A+. And she, at the end of like the school year, she was like, I think you should become a chef. And I was like, no, no, I can't do that. And she was like,
Peggy, me?
okay. Yeah. And I remember other kids in my class, there might have been one other girl who was pursuing pastry.
Hmm.
But I just never thought about it again. And then I just would cook at home, using cookbooks. I was an avid lover of Food Network.
Yeah.
I watched everything on Food Network, and I was just obsessed with it, I think. And then it really wasn't until my senior year when I started to think about what I was doing for school and college and
Hmm.
everything, where I was like, okay, what am I doing? And because, as you know, Rye, we had so many people in our family that were teachers, I was just like, well, I love, and I had worked with kids. I worked with little kids at an after school program.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'll be an elementary school teacher. Like, I love kids.
Hmm.
So I remember going through the process of going to look at schools and, applying for this and that. And I don't know what it was, but something just didn't feel right. It didn't, there wasn't that connection with it. And then I remember talking to grandpa,
Hmm.
one day at his house about, I love teaching, but like, and kids, but I don't know. I feel a little lost. And he was the one that said to me, why don't you go to culinary school? And I was like, what?
Hmm.
Really? And he's like, he knew already, like he knew about CIA. He's like, there's this culinary school right on the Hudson, and it's beautiful, and it's like one of the best culinary schools in the country. And I was
Wow.
like, all right, well, I guess I'll look into it. And that's when I started to look into CIA, Johnson and Wales, and a couple other places.
Hmm.
And I think I might have reached out to Peggy Ann, the just to get her opinion, and she was like, "Yeah, yeah, you should go to culinary school and go to CIA."
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So I remember I applied,
Hmm.
and back then, I'm not sure if they still do that, but back then they used to have like a representative basically keep in touch with you. So I remember I had applied and I had to do, at the time, we had to do 6 months of training in an actual food industry setting. So it could have been anything, but you had to have 6 months experience in a restaurant
Hmm.
or restaurant like. And I remember I started working at Soup Time.
Hmm.
And I got a call maybe shortly thereafter from this woman, who was my representative at CIA. And she said, just want to let you're in, you made it in. And
Whoa.
I remember sitting in my car and I just started crying.
Wow.
And I just knew, I was like, this is it. This is the path I'm
Yeah.
supposed
Wow.
to. It all fell into place. Yeah.
I love that. And I guess you're somebody who's pretty big on intuition, right? Uh, w- I guess how has that sort of steered you as you've been going through the food industry? Because you've had a few titles. So I guess how has your intuition navigated you through, I guess your career, to help you make decisions that sort of are in alignment with what feels right?
Yeah. So, I think, especially, I don't know, I feel like now the culinary industry has changed so much because of the internet,
Hmm.
and in good and bad ways, in my opinion. But when I was going to culinary school, like being a chef was like a big deal. And you're
Yeah.
in a restaurant, it was like certain box that you were in, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I was actually really lucky enough to get to experience a not a seminar, but it was a talk from Anthony Bourdain. He
Oh,
came to
wow.
school and I got to sit in his lecture. And one of the things I'll always remember him saying was, right out of school, don't take a job that is going to pay you the most. Take a
Mm.
job that's going to give you the most experience.
Oh, wow.
Because once you start making that money, you're not going to want to go back to not making good money.
Right. Right.
If you can hone in on that experience. And the other thing was, you can go anywhere. You can literally go anywhere in the world and
Right.
cook. And maybe you might not know the language, or you might not have the exact skill set they're looking for, but you'll build it and you'll learn the language, and maybe they start you off as a dishwasher, but then once they see that you're into it and, they'll start giving you little tasks
Mm-hmm.
and you'll work your way up. And I think that's the beauty of the chef industry is that there are so many options in the realm of cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think that I didn't necessarily know the direction I wanted to go in, but I just remember always saying yes. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, it was this, if an opportunity arose, yes. It was when I was asked to be a teaching assistant for a year with my mentor. Yes, wasn't making great money, but I just knew deep down I would get really good experience from it. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it was one of the best things. I saw Chef Lapuma a month or so ago, and I said, you were like a driving force in my life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That year was so pivotal for me because I gained so many skills, managerial, just knowledge, how to command a kitchen, all those
Mm-hmm.
things. And I gained pastry skills. And
Yeah.
had it not been for him, he wanted nothing to do with the pastry department. And
Yeah.
had it not been for, I wouldn't have had to push myself to learn pastry, to learn baking, and
Yeah.
to instruct students how to do it as well. Because I also sought out other instructors and asked them, like I just picked their brains.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I think I was in my younger days, I was like looking for knowledge and experience. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what drove me at that time. And I'm so thankful that if an opportunity arose, I just said yes. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how Italy happened too. I know I went to Italy. I spent about 4 months in Italy
Mm-hmm.
working. And that again, that experience was from that chef because he
Right.
he said, go talk to one of the chefs. He knows somebody in Italy that's looking for a chef. Go talk. And I was like, okay, great. So I went, spoke to them, and it just lined up perfectly. So I feel like even if it wasn't maybe the best pay or it wasn't the ideal situation, everything that I've done in my career
Mm-hmm.
has led to the next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's almost like say yes to the chef. Just a little bit. Sign me
Yeah.
up, baby,
Oh my God.
producer.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think especially when you're just starting out, it's hard because
hmm.
economy has changed. It's
Yep.
not as easy to, when I first started out, I was paying $500 a month in rent. So
Right.
could
Yeah,
work
it's
for
fucking
like, I could
crazy.
work for nothing. I was
Yeah.
making hardly anything. But I just knew that I guess I've always kind of been a little bit of like a hustler too. So
Yeah.
to me, I've always wanted to get so many different experiences and to work so many different places just to add that, to my resume basically and to build up my skills.
Hmm. Well, I think that's the most important part that anybody can take away is sort of eating shit for a little bit so you can learn, apply, and just create all these great experiences to create good connections
100%.
with people and yeah, and just to sort of broaden and keep an open mind of what your skill set can be, what your career could be, right? Um, and I think it led you to some really cool opportunities because
Yeah,
shout out,
absolutely.
you mentioned you used to watch Food Network. At one point, you were on Food Network. Why don't you
I
tell us
was.
about that?
Oh yeah, I did chop
She
and
did
I was
chop,
chop.
and she was chop.
But it still was a really cool experience. I got to
Mhm.
do it. Back then, I think I was 24 when I did it.
Wow, holy shit.
And then I was really disappointed in myself and kind of upset that I didn't at least make it further than I did. But now looking
Hmm.
back, I'm like, I did it. You
Yeah,
know, I put myself out there. And I think that's one thing that maybe a lot of younger people are afraid to do is put themselves out there
yeah,
for, lack of failing or just not coming out looking the best. And I feel like
yeah,
that's the time to do it. Your
yeah.
20s is your time to experiment and to figure things out
Hmm.
and to learn and absorb as much as you can because it's only going to help you later in life. And it just catapulted me to being okay with failure, I think,
Mm,
which is important.
true.
And just, you know what? I didn't win that. On to the next thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's just it's a lesson and everything. I think that's one thing my intuition has helped with is that I have, even if it hasn't been an experience that like I said, was the most positive, I've always
Yeah,
been able to learn something from it. And I think that's a big takeaway from anything.
absolutely. I think if somebody can call your meal, it tastes like sand in my mouth, then you can only go up from there.
Oh, yeah. And then I saw his ass in person in the Hamptons. So
That's
there
right.
you go.
Eat my shit. I'll show you sand, buddy. Uh, yeah, I think that is a great lesson because I think failure is a big thing that people have a fear of, right? But once you sort of experience it, you kind of realize like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought, right?
Yeah. I think
Um,
it's like the end of the world, And then,
yeah.
I mean, even kind of with how things happened with us coming down to the Hamptons. So we live in the Hamptons.
Hmm.
It was not an easy path getting here. The first job we went to, we were fired from within a week,
Mm,
and I was devastated. I was like, "That's it." We uprooted our whole lives and came down here, and that's it. Like it's the end of the road for us. And
mm,
after I was done feeling sorry for myself and upset, I was just like, "No, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it
mm,
out." And
mm.
if we had thrown in the towel and moved back, like who knows what would have happened?
True.
Now we've experienced so many amazing things and met so many amazing people that it's like, okay, that you don't see when you're in that moment of failure. You don't see what's to come for you.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you look at any of these billionaires, millionaires that have created companies or done big things in their life, they said they all failed.
Yeah.
Failure is part of your journey. And if
Right.
you don't fail, then you don't learn and you don't know how. I think it's, I think I read that it's Warren Buffett had said that if he's going to invest in a company, he wants that person or company to have failed at least twice in
Mm,
business.
yeah.
And they haven't learned unless they have.
Yeah. I th-
So I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing with that.
Yeah. Well, I think, and like I said, I think that is a good point because it gives you like a taste of, I mean, it's kind of like if you don't fail, then you almost never take risks, or if you always have that fear of failure, you're scared to take these risks. Um,
Absolutely.
but in terms of, I guess, so you 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 had followed your path in terms of a career that really resonated with you, you're passionate about. You had like ups and downs and all these other things. Um, how do you think being a chef, because I've coached a few chefs in my time who have expressed the difficulty of living a healthy lifestyle while
Hmm.
also having that career path. How have you sort of navigated that? And I guess what are the difficulties of being a chef and, trying to live that healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, so I think the hardest thing is the hours. I mean, depending upon what you do, I can tell you right now, when I was working in restaurants, it was
Mm,
my diet and lifestyle were the worst.
mm,
And it's because I was at work 10, 11, 12 plus hours a day,
mm,
just eating what was there. I tried to, do my best at eating healthy and having salads, but you don't realize unless you're super conscious about it, oh, if there's, I just put some fries on a plate. Oh, there's a fry left in the bowl. You pop it in your mouth.
mm.
And that's not just me. That's like so many people in the kitchens. A lot of chefs are mostly pickers. We just
Yeah,
like, we don't even sit down for a meal. We just constantly are picking throughout the day.
yeah,
And if it's not a lot, then it's not detrimental to a lot of people. But if you're constantly doing that throughout the day, you don't know how many calories you're consuming,
right.
And, I think that was one thing that I'm at a point with now, even though I'm not at like my ideal weight, I have become more conscious about if I do go to like a cooking job or if I'm busy, I make sure at least I'm starting my day with protein and I stop at least for something quick to eat, even if
Mm,
it's like a protein shake or um, a piece of protein, something chicken or something
mm,
to like satiate me before I start with my day. Because a lot of the times
yeah,
while I'm cooking now, I don't like to eat. I don't like
mm,
to because I feel like you feel like weighed down almost. You feel too
right.
heavy. And I think that's probably why chefs do that because you're on your feet for so long. You don't want to sit down and have a heavy meal that's going to
Right.
make you feel sluggish, and you have to be on it constantly.
Mm,
So I think that's definitely one of the hard parts about it. And also, a lot of times you don't have the schedule or the ability to get a workout in.
Right.
Hours are so long that, oh yeah, unless I want to wake up at 5 in the morning to work out, and then knowing you have a 12-hour plus day ahead of you,
Mm-hmm.
I think for a lot of chefs that's not motivating, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't. Now I'm in the realization that not only do I feel better about myself, my body, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's mental health too.
Yeah.
I think like younger me only worked out for the aesthetic of it.
Yeah.
And now I'm really working out for my health, my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm a better person. I'm a better mom.
Yeah.
Um, when I'm taking that time for myself, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you touched on a couple of important parts. Is one, the hours are very strenuous for a chef, so it does make it more, I don't want to say impossible, but it makes it more difficult for them
Absolutely.
to lead a healthier lifestyle. I think the amount of days work too is a lot for a chef.
Right.
Um, the bites, licks, and tastes that you talked about, I think that is a huge one, especially for any, I think for one, for anyone, but especially for someone whose job is to be around food, let alone cook the food, let alone try the food to make sure the food you're serving
Course, it's
is
good.
is
Yeah,
good.
I mean, you don't taste your food. What kind of chef are you? Sorry.
Right, right. But
You
then it's
know?
also like, oh shit, I'm eating all these calories because
Yeah.
so I think that is important to navigate and to be aware of. You kind of touched on a little bit of your own health journey. I guess what has been your health journey, like growing up to now, and how has it sort of progressed over time?
Dude, I don't think we have enough time for that, but
Oh, trust me,
uh,
sweetheart.
um, oh God, where do I start? So I've always had, I guess, a weight issue since I was young, whether it was genetic or otherwise. But I just feel like because I didn't grow up with a healthy sense of I should just a healthy relationship with food,
Hmm.
everything's always, I mean, and it's not just me, you were in the same household as I was. It's just
Hmm.
that our bodies are different, obviously, but our back, I mean, a lot of people can attest to this. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was all about diet culture. Like we were
Hmm.
so focused on diet culture and TV and magazines and the products that came out. Like I can remember those snack wells that mom would buy, like little cakes and like that were diet, like everything was diet,
Yeah.
right? And I just, I mean, it's hard to say this without like attacking anybody. I'm not trying to. It's just my experience. But I grew up, at 8 years old, going to Weight Watchers, going to
Mm.
Jenny Craig, going to a nutritionist. It was like nonstop. I was going to seeing people. And I think from a young age, ugh, damn it, Ryan.
Give me your tears. Give me your tears.
Yes. It just makes you feel like you're not good enough in the body you're in.
Mm.
Something's wrong with you. And I feel like as a young person, especially under the age of 10, like
Yeah.
that changes your whole psyche.
Hmm.
You're not like it, and it's not, I guess maybe it came across as you're not loved as you are because it was constantly trying to change me, to make me better, to get me to exercise or have me eat this food or that food so that I could lose weight. And it wasn't just our parents, it was outside people too. It's society.
Hmm.
And experiencing other kids in your class that make fun of
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
So I have just always grown up with this poor sense of what's good for you, what's not good for you,
Hmm.
and just it all being focused around image instead of health, really.
Hmm.
And I still struggle with that. I still struggle with linking my self-worth to my body image.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I still think that, well, if I'm thinner, I'm better.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as much as we have progressed, um, I mean, we've done, my God, if I like, I'm really happy for my daughter that she gets to grow up in a society that's a little more friendly and a little more
Yes.
accepting of other body sizes
Hmm.
uh, and shapes. And but it's still, I struggle with, I still feel like as a whole, we still think thinner means better or skinnier is good, and instead of taking everything into account, it's just like we see somebody that's skinny, they're healthy.
Hmm.
That's not necessarily true. Like, the people that are thinner can have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, whatever, but
Hmm.
just as a society, we just see that and we just think that's that's good
Right.
and more desirable, especially as a woman.
Hmm.
So it's hard to have, come to terms with all of those things as a child and then growing up into the same world. And of course, I remember always thinking, oh, and of course I chose to be in the food industry. Like
Right.
really the thing that I like struggle with the most.
Mm.
Let's just immerse yourself in that constantly.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's still a struggle every day. I mean, I still think I still like have those moments that I think the same way I did as a young person and like,
Hmm.
well, look good if I don't, it's all about what you look like
Yeah.
and what you're eating, and it's hard to take away the association of good and bad foods. I
Mm.
think that's the hardest thing, and that's why I really try for my children. We don't
Yeah.
we don't talk about it. I mean, like the way I've kind of described it to them is, my daughter knows this is better for your body. It's going to give you more energy. It's going to make you stronger, like fruits and veggies and protein.
Hmm.
And, candy, we like candy, but it's not necessarily the best fuel for our body. But we
Hmm.
can have it sometimes because we like it.
Hmm.
And she totally gets that.
Right.
And she's even like, I've been noticing her, she's been like doing jumping jacks and push-ups.
Yeah.
Um, and she'll say things like, well, we can have a little bit of candy, but it's not healthy for our bodies.
Hmm.
So it's so nice to be able to change the mindset and turn that whole frame upside down because I feel like it is I mean, so many women, I mean, men too, I guess, but so many women struggle with body image
Hmm.
and allowing them, so many people even still have the mindset of like, oh, I'm going to have a cheat meal,
Yeah.
instead of just incorporating it into their daily lives. And I think that was
Hmm.
definitely because I grew up in that era and even into my 20s that was like a thing. I mean, I remember a diet that I did that was like you fasted for a couple days and then you would eat and then we got one cheat day and it was like, oh, and then you're gonna and when you look back you're like, how fucked up is that? Like one day
Yeah.
to eat, like thousands and thousands of calories and then
Hmm.
you feel like shit afterwards
Yeah.
and then now it's back into restrict, restrict, restrict.
Right.
So I feel like I've learned a lot from you. I mean, and you even seeing you through your career, how you've progressed with, how just changing your mindset too,
Hmm.
um, about everything can fit within your diet.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's been really, really helpful for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, and obviously we grew up in the same household, so I can definitely relate and remember like all the Weight Watcher foods or the points on the labels and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and Jenny Craig meals in the fridge and the freezer. Um,
Yes.
going to Weight Watchers meetings and being like the kid who couldn't sit still and it was just like listening to all these women like
Yeah.
and watching people get weighed and weight after weight and getting badges if they lost 5 pounds and all that stuff. It's
Yeah.
like I think that's just ingrained in our memories, and I think it's true. I think a lot of people struggle with uh the diet culture aspect because especially for people who are in their late 20s and 30s now, it was like ingrained in their psychology. It's like I can't tell you how many clients I coach and have coached that uh, have so much of their food trauma stem from when they were 7, 8 years old, who were also
Yeah.
put on diets at a very young age. And I think that's why I respect how you're raising your kids a lot now because you're making it a priority to one, not have them go through the same, narrative you live, to creating a healthy environment with food choices and also food flexibility and not demonizing foods. And then also exercise, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a big reason why, for me personally, I exercise at such a young age because I tried to model after dad a lot. And
Yeah.
Obviously, mom would be doing her Tai Bo in the living room and all that stuff. But I think it's so important to set an example for kids, especially with your own actions. I think that's like one of the best things that you can do. And again, I am not a parent, so this is only from client experiences. You could probably attest, but like how what you do is what your kids do. So if they see you exercise and they see you doing yoga, they see you having dessert flexibly, or they see you having protein and vegetables, it's like they want to do the same. Um, I guess how, because you did mention something like you said you're not at your ideal weight yet and all these other things. What is like your goal right now in terms of what you want and with your health and all that?
So I feel like maybe, even before I had kids, I remember just like, New Year's would come around and like, all right, my New Year's resolution, I'm going to lose weight this year. I'm going to
Yeah.
lose 50. And I have taken the focus off of that into being consistent with my workout routine
Mm-hmm.
and building a better relationship with food.
Mm.
Um, and before I go to eat something, it's like, are you hungry? Are you
Yeah.
hungry?
Yeah.
You just need, is it just this thing in your brain
Mm-hmm.
that's like, you need to eat something right now?
Right.
And I still struggle with that. It's not like I don't have days, but I'm happy to say I don't binge anymore. I mean, I used to binge
Awesome.
or sneak foods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that anymore. Like if I'm gonna have a donut, I'm gonna go eat a donut.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a tinge of me that still feels a little guilty about it, but then I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm gonna have a salad after that,
Right.
like um and it's really having trained myself really, I guess, to love foods that are good
Mm-hmm.
for and
Yeah.
really tune into the fact that I feel better after I eat well. And I think that's one thing that has helped is really tuning into myself even after eating those food, even after eating a donut.
Right.
How does my body feel? Like, I have, or even, something like that has always triggered me, like eating something fried. I get like instant heartburn, and
Mm-hmm.
it just like doesn't make me feel the best, So it's like
Mm-hmm.
after I eat better,
Yeah.
um, I'm really checking in with myself to be like, okay, how does this make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
And um, I think it's hard, I think, for me I still struggle with my image because I'm heavier than I was before I had kids.
Mm-hmm.
And what's hard about that, I think, for a lot of women is accepting what your body looks like now after
Mm-hmm.
children.
Yeah.
And I think I just want to be a healthier, better version of myself just to be around,
Mhm.
for my kids and to be a good example for them. Even if they may struggle with their weight one day, I at least know that they're not going to be doing it in unhealthy ways
Right.
to try to weight. They're going to go down paths of like, well, let's start taking a walk after dinner, or
Mhm.
let's, as a family, let's go to the gym like with mom. And that's one thing is my kids have always seen me work out because they've come to the gym with me, or,
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, Hudson literally was inside me, and then I just brought him to the gym last week with me. So
Mhm.
they both see that I'm working out and
Yeah.
doing that, enjoying it, and not like, ugh, I have to go to the gym. Like,
Right.
bye, I'm going to the gym,
Mhm.
and I'm making time for that as well, time for myself.
Mhm.
And I think that is one of the most important things in my journey is that now I enjoy working out. I used to work out mostly, like I said, for body image,
Mhm.
to be thinner, to look a certain way. Now I'm like, I want to be strong
Mhm.
and I want to be healthy for my
Mhm.
kids.
Yeah.
That's my goal now.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on a schmeckle ton there, like a good amount. So I think no, I think one, starting what you just said, I think reframing your goals so that they're not focused around weight. I think that's such a underrated uh reframe because so many people will solely focus on weight, right? Because that's why when you said like ideal weight and all that stuff, that's why I want to pick into that a little bit more because I think so many people focus on, oh, not like my ideal weight, but like what is your fucking ideal weight, right? Like nobody like based on what your
Yeah.
doctor told you 10 years ago or like all like nobody there's no such thing as like an ideal way. I think there's an ideal version of ourselves that we really strive to be, and I think that's what you just described, right? So like when your goal becomes less about weight loss and more about how can I be healthy, how can I be stronger, how can I move better, how can I set a good example for my kids, then weight loss is just a byproduct of that, right? It's because you're prioritizing movement more, you're prioritizing your nutrition more, you're prioritizing food flexibility more, and strength. And I think that's really the key to starting a healthier journey
Yeah.
towards our ideal selves is based on how you reframe your goals. And I think you touched on other things too, in terms of, there's a lot of people that struggle with binge eating. I used to struggle with binge eating too, like very similar. I used to have cheat days, like
Yeah,
cheat
I
day
remember
days. Yeah,
eating
yeah.
pints of Ben and Jerry's.
Oh, that was dessert. I used to start my morning with like ramen noodles. I'd have a box or two of Girl Scout cookies. I'd have a large specialty pizza to myself, and then wrap up the day with Chubby Hubby Ben and Jerry's. So it's like I was eating
You were
like
turning into a chubby hubby.
yeah, exactly. Well, it was fun. Well, but sort of because I was restricting so much during the week because
Yeah.
I also had a this food is good or bad. I would eat just whole wheat pasta and chicken and broccoli, like nasty shit, like or just salmon and sweet potato.
Like
So
chicken and rice and broccoli. Like I just remember eating that for so many meals.
yeah, yeah, right. So so I definitely can relate in that regard, and I think a lot of people do struggle with that, and I think, some of the other things you mentioned too on listening to your hunger cues or just creating more awareness by asking yourself those simple questions or taking a moment before you eat something. I think that's also very underrated and not talked about enough when it comes to creating a
It's
better
totally
relationship
a
with food.
mind fuck, you know?
Hmm. How
You
so?
have to like so, sometimes I'll like struggle in my own head and like talk to myself like,
Hmm.
it's like a war going on in there. And I'm sure a lot of people think like that.
Hmm.
And I think that's why, I mean, not that we're going to delve into this super deep, but that's why I think these weight loss drugs are helping so many people because it has quieted that
Hmm.
like, oh, I need something like, because I mean, for our family, we've always wanted something sweet after
Yeah.
everything.
Hmm.
After lunch, I want something sweet. After dinner, I want something sweet.
Right.
That like, oh, that internal struggle. And I think it's that thinking of like what will happen if I don't have it? And it's like
Hmm.
you'll be, like
Right. Right.
last night, like I went to this bakery yesterday and I bought like some pastries for us to taste, and all of us tasted them before dinner, even the kids.
Hmm.
All took a couple bites of each thing. And then we had a healthy dinner and that was it. And
Hmm.
we were done for the night. So it was like, but
Hmm.
in the past, I would have probably and this is like real talk.
Hmm.
I probably would have gone to the bakery, gotten something for myself, eaten it on the car ride home or something, and then gotten the box of pastries and still had more,
Hmm.
right? So that it didn't look like I was having anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's like I can't even tell you how many times that has happened.
Yeah.
Um,
And that, yeah.
now, yesterday I was like, I'm gonna get stuff and I'm just gonna bring it home and we're all gonna try it
Hmm.
together. And we did.
Yeah.
And then I felt satiated enough that like I didn't have to eat everything at
Right.
all sitting, like there's still a bunch in the fridge.
Hmm.
And it's like, and I'm not gonna like get mad at myself or down on myself if like I want a bite right now and I'm gonna have a
Right.
bite. And that's it.
Hmm.
Because in the past I would have it was that mindset of like, well, I have to finish it all now so that
Mm.
it's at the house, it's out of my reach when you're actually better just like having a little bit each day, and
Right.
you're not so crazy about, well, if I can't have it in my house, and and I mean there's a lot of people that can't do that, I guess, right?
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
feel like if you can allow yourself to just have something a little bit, if you like sweets, have a little bit of something every day. Like
Hmm.
me, that really helped with my binge eating, and not demonize it if I did do it. If I
Right.
did, like, not beating myself up about it. I think that's
Yeah.
one thing we get so down on ourselves. And then it's that fuck it mentality.
Hmm.
That's it. I might as well just cancel the rest of my day
Right.
because I'm just gonna eat everything now,
Right. Right. Cancel my meetings.
Time to eat.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely progress because I mean, if we define what binge eating is more or less the psychological aspect that goes into eating food. Obviously, there's, because I think a lot of people confuse overeating with binge eating, right? Overeating, obviously, we've all overate before, but binge eating is when there's shame or guilt associated after. It's typically done by yourself in secret, alone. It's when you consume an excess amount of calories or food in one sitting, you know, so. I think that's really important, and that definitely shows a lot of progress in your own journey of being able to, navigate your portion control and also your mindset, almost like your mindset portion of being able to say, hey, I can have this anytime I want. I don't have to eat the whole thing, right? I think that's a lot of people struggle with what we call the scarcity mindset, right? Kind of like you said, like, oh, I need to
Yeah.
eat this all right now. I need to get this out of my house right now. Even
Mhm.
though it's like as soon as you finish that, it's just getting you closer to your next binge, right? Your next
Yeah,
thing that you're
right,
going to bring
right,
into your house.
right.
Um, yeah. And I think in order to get from that scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset when it comes to your eating, do exactly what you said, like being able to have some of that portion every day that allows you to feel satisfied, that allows you to feel like there is no demonization of it, that there is flexibility within your diet. I think that's incredibly important, especially for our health adherence. And I think that, being able to say yes to certain foods is going to be progress for a lot of people. And also being able to say no to those things as well as progress, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times like me saying no to pizza or me saying no to uh donuts or dessert or anything like that. In that moment, I'm like, oh, good choice, man, because we we easily could have
Yeah,
pounded that, but we're not hungry, we don't want it, right? Or
yeah,
vice versa. We've both been through those phases where, like we've restricted a ton. We've said no to things because we said, no, this is bad and it's going to make me gain weight or it's going to make me look fat or anything like that. And, that has being able to say yes or no in those certain situations is progress. So I think that's incredibly important. Um, I think in terms of your relationship with food and all these other things, um, how would you say it has been? I guess, did you have that talk um, with your husband prior about how you want to raise your kids in like that food environment or that workout environment, or was just something in your mind you're like, I've been through this and I need to just create a good environment because I do not want to put my kids through that.
yeah. So I feel like we touched on it lightly, but
Hmm.
you know, it's hard because you can say so many things before you have kids, right? And then
Right.
once you have kids, things change. And I think for us, it was what helped shape it was actually having our children, and then even how other people would react to them.
Hmm.
And that, if people said, "Oh, you're eating a lot,"
Mm, yeah.
or, "Oh, you can't have any more candy, it's not good for you," or things
Right.
like that automatically made me like, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
we're not so, and that I think solidified it for me. And even, we didn't grow up in a household of you finished everything on your plate, or you don't get dessert, or you don't get to get down from the table, but my husband did.
Mm,
And so we briefly touched on that. Even when, we started feeding her solids, like 6 months old, it was like, she wants to eat it, she'll eat it,
mhm,
and however, whatever her body is telling her she wants, like that's one thing that helped is actually researching, especially children, especially and toddlers, like they stop when they're full. That's
mhm,
just what their body tells them to do.
mhm.
So why are we not tapping into that and actually honoring their own bodies,
Right. So true.
right? And I think that helped me um just work with her and try and figure that out. And then I did a lot of research, to be honest, because I didn't grow up in that mindset. And
Hmm.
I was just like, okay, how do I do this so that I don't pass on my fucked up ideas of food to her?
Hmm.
And not saying that things haven't slipped, or if I haven't been like, not I've never commented on her body, but things have slipped of like, oh well, that's not good for us. And I'm like,
Hmm.
nope, that's and then I realized that's I have to change that frame of mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of accounts I will say that helped me. I think one was like Kids Eat in Color. Um, I can't remember, maybe Feeding Littles was another big one. Because they were accounts that talked about how to nourish your children,
Mm-hmm.
while also allowing them to have all foods and not commenting on weight or how much they're eating or um, portion sizes, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that we've just kind of navigated as they've been on this planet.
Right.
I I think having children, I've always been nervous about them being overweight because of what everything I went through as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, kids, especially at these ages, like they go through so many different changes with their bodies that you don't know what they're going to grow up to be like, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's obviously you can tell a difference that there's some children that are just smaller than others and ones that are bigger than others. But um, it's never been a subject that we've touched on. I've never said anything about her body unless it's talking about her being strong or healthy or something like that. We've
Mm-hmm.
never, and the other thing I think that is huge for adults too, but especially for kids, is not to point out anyone else's body. So
Mm-hmm.
comment on anybody's body, whether they look thin, whether they're bigger, whether they're
Right.
we we have commented of like there's no, and it's not us commenting, it's mostly us like in children's books that we found like some
Mm-hmm.
people are tall, some people are short, some people are fat, some people are thin, and we don't demonize the fatness if that
Mm-hmm.
is, and we just don't comment on people's bodies, period.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to be 5 in June, and she
Mm-hmm.
has never said, "You're fat," or "You're," I think one time she made a comment about Eric and I. Wow, you guys have wiggly jiggly bellies or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, we do, but we've
Mm-hmm.
never made anything of that bad. And
Right.
I think that's such a big thing because I've been, I don't know, even in my adult age, I've been called fat by a little kid. So
Mm-hmm.
like, where are they hearing that from?
Right.
And I think that's so important because my kid is just looking at all types of people
Mm-hmm.
without judgment
Right.
about these. And I think that's huge because then she's going to look at her own body one day
Yeah.
and be, I'm worthy, and it's not based around my body, but it's just like this, like what people say, this is the least interesting thing about me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think you touched on a lot of things that all parents can relate to, and I think that's a good mindset. Like being the uncle of this child, I think that's super important because that's something I learned is you don't comment on somebody's body, but you can comment on some amazing things that they're doing. Like, oh, you look strong, or like, hey, great job with like what a nice walk that was, or like, just like commenting on some positive, healthy impacts that we're doing, right? I think that's really important. And also, like you said, like not overemphasizing, how we look or anything like that. Maybe emphasize more of how we feel.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's really important. I got one more question for you, and this is usually the deep diving question.
oh,
But my history with mental health, and the name of this podcast is called These Little Moments, and I mean I'm sure you've seen the video of me speaking in front of a large group and sort of telling them how my struggles with anxiety, depression, and being very vulnerable in that moment, and that was a big little moment that really contributed or was the catalyst to me, changing a lot of, who I am, who I was, and who I want to be. What's a little moment in your life that you can pick out and say, thank God this happened because it, led me to the journey of who I am today?
I mean, I have to go back to sitting at grandpa's kitchen table
Mm,
and discussing what I wanted to do with my life. And him, I think when you're young, there's so many options of things to do and who you want to be. And it's really important to have somebody that believes in you wholeheartedly.
hmm
that really knows you and your heart and your passions. And that sit down changed the whole trajectory of my life. I
Mm,
would have never been doing what I'm doing.
mm-hmm.
And I think, I feel like I talked about the negatives of being a chef and dealing with food and being in this industry, but what I didn't touch upon was, I have done healthy meal prep for people, and I have been able to combine, my journey wrapped
Mm,
up in all of that
mm-hmm.
because I know how to make healthy food taste delicious.
Mm,
And that one moment of sitting down, really thinking about what my future was going to look like, just gave me confidence, in trusting myself, in trusting my intuition, like we talked about. Because having that thought in my head, but all these outside people or things are saying, well, you can't do that. You're not going to
mm,
make enough money. That's not a
mm-hmm.
good enough job.
Mm-hmm.
To having that one person be like, this is who you're meant to be. This is what you're meant to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Right.
It changed everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shout out, Grandpa. Just because someone tells you should do something doesn't mean you should, you know? That's
No,
I say that all the
and
time.
it's really sitting with yourself. And not everyone gets a passion, unfortunately, or can find it in the time that, you're supposed to go to college or to go to school or something. But, I think one thing is doing things that you like and being able to turn that into your passion, into your career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because no matter what, even if you don't make $1 million or plus dollars a year,
Right.
still enjoying doing what you love to do.
Right.
And that is enough happiness for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, great answer. Where can people find you? What are you currently up to and all that stuff?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Licia Householder. I also have my website that I debuted in December, liciahouseholder.com. And you can look at all the stuff I make. You can book a private session with me doing I'm a private chef, or I can make a birthday cake for you and your family, or I can make healthy meal prep for you if that's something that you're looking to do to help with your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I'm just, raising my kids and still pursuing my passions of having my own business and, dabbling in a couple other things. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm very happy and very blessed to be in the position I am right now.
Let's go. There we go. That's it. That's the episode. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Alicia. We'll stay on for just a few moments afterwards.
All right.
But we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.